retiring, middle age, or starting new, they're either moving all the way out east, which is way off, like in Suffolk County, which, sometimes is not desirable for a lot of people because they don't want to go that far. That's why we had this conversation, which is they're looking to move out of state because at the end of the day, they compare. They're like, wait a minute, if I sell my house here for $700,000, I got $300,000-$400,000 in equity. I can go over there, put a huge down payment. Property taxes will be lower. There's good schools. I'll save on auto insurance and that type of stuff. So that's the mentality here in New York.
Hello, hello, hello. It's Natasha Bazile with soldbynat.com, associate broker, home selling, new construction, and relocation specialist with Virtual Properties Realty in Georgia. Today, I have a real estate rock star from New York with us. I have Real Estate Raph. Got that right.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Real Estate Raph. I am so excited and happy for him to be joining today. We are working with the same clients. How are we doing that? They are relocating from New York to Georgia. So he is assisting them with selling their home in New York, and I am assisting them with buying a new construction home in Georgia. So let me stop there and let me welcome you to the Sold by Nat community, family, all that good stuff. Welcome to the channel, Raph.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, Natasha. I look forward to having this conversation over here from New York City. And I see the background. You're setting the stage for New York City and Long Island. That's what I cover. Queens, yes. Really Queens and Long Island.
Awesome. Okay, awesome. So just letting you guys in on some insight. We just finished recording a segment for his channel. So, and I talked about, people moving from New York, relocating to Georgia. So now I want to pick Raph's head about pretty much the same thing, but kind of flipped. He's going to be on the hot seat. Let's say, even in that conversation that we had, I realized there are a lot of differences between Georgia and New York. For one, closing, it takes longer to close in New York than it does Georgia. In Georgia, we're closing 30 to 45 days. New construction, it can take longer if we're waiting on the house to be built, but closing itself does not take as long. Why does it take longer in New York?
Yeah, so first of all, like in New York is a judicial state. So everything is done through attorney. So usually the buyer and the seller, they have their own attorney, right? So let me give you an example. Like if you submit an offer for a house, let's say a buyer submits an offer and it's accepted, it's not a binding contract at that point. It's just, you have an accepted offer. And then technically what the seller does is continue showing, right? Because at the end of the day, you have to do your due diligence, which is, the inspection, right? Which can go after, about 2 days after the house is accepted. But it's happened to me where I had an accepted offer. My buyer has done an inspection, and then the seller's agent calls me and says, "Hey, by the way, we had a higher offer. Sorry." It's tough because I tell my sellers, look, that's not the right thing to do. And sometimes you don't want to do it because you don't know if that other offer may be higher, if they're going to be serious or not. They could back out, right? If you have a highly motivated buyer, and you can tell, right? So that's one of the reasons. So when that happens, when you do an inspection, then the realtors discuss as far as certain things that come up at the inspection. To put into the contract, the listing agent sends a deal sheet over to the attorney reviews it. Sometimes the attorney calls the buyer's attorney, they have conversations, right? And then the seller's attorney sends over the contracts to the buyer's attorney. The buyer attorney gets together with their buyer, they review the contracts, and then they may have revisions after they speak to the buyer. So that's a back and forth conversation with the seller's attorney. Then the contracts come back to the seller's attorney, and then the seller signs, and then it's a binding contract. So that whole process from offer accepted to a signed contract can take up to 2 weeks. And during those 2 weeks, the seller and the listing agent do have the right to entertain other offers and even accept another offer. Now, once you get into contract, title usually takes about 2, sometimes 4 weeks, right? And I don't know, that's why I asked you in the previous segment, I guess you're lending out there, they're like used to, look, you got to close 14, maximum 45 days. It's not really like this over here. It takes anywhere from like 2 to 3 months. If you get lucky, it's going to take about a month and a half, but both parties have to be on the same page. Again, if you have cash deals,
Okay.
they close in like 30 days. Okay, but the typical is 2 to 3 months, and it could take longer because if you have title issues, if you have things that you're trying to resolve, yeah, things could be held in escrow after you close, but it just takes a little bit longer in New York City. Most of it because it's judicial state compared to how you guys do it, where you have agents involved in a title company, right?
Okay. So if I'm understanding this correctly, you are not officially binding until after the inspection period. And so a buyer could spend their money to inspect the home and don't go binding. It's not official.
Yeah, they do the inspection and they find a few things that they can't live with, and they're like, you know what, I'm going to back out, and then no attorneys are involved or anything. But once they say, okay, yes is a go, or both sides agree on certain things that it's called the repair rider. Some of the things that they're going to include in there, it could be a leak, it could be whatever it is. Then that's sent over to the attorney to include in the contract. But the listing agent is the one that sends over the instructions to the attorney, the seller's attorney, to send out contracts. So that's why it takes a little bit longer. And that's why the coordinating process between New York and out of state between agents is very important.
Extremely important. One more question. When does the buyer put down earnest money?
They don't put earnest money.
Really?
There's no earnest money. So what they do is they put a down payment on contract.
Okay.
So the way it works is that, let's say I'm submitting an offer for a property, I would put the loan amount, the purchase price, the down payment on contract, which is usually in New York is about 5% of the. I mean, if you do an FHA 3.5, you would put the whole thing in there.
Okay.
Then let's say you're financing up to 10%, put 5% on contract, the other 5% you'll bring at closing. So what ends up happening is that you do the inspection. I mean, they accept your offer, they do the inspection, and then, that'll be something that where when the buyer signs with their attorney, they have to bring that 5% to the contract signing, and that money is sent back to the sales attorney and placed in the sales attorney's escrow account. That's a very good question. There's no good faith deposit. Like you guys, right?
Yeah.
You submit an offer, you put a good faith deposit, right, with you guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then it's binding right then and there, and then you do the inspection.
Yeah, and then we do the inspection. If for some reason they don't come to terms on the inspection, the buyers can terminate and get back their earnest money as long as they terminate within that time period.
Yeah.
So okay, so clear difference there. Okay, question for you. I'm going to change gears a little bit. How is the market in New York? So the last couple of years, we had craziness. It was over asking, waiving appraisal, paying out of pocket if the house didn't appraise. Did you experience that there?
Yeah, it was absolutely insane. I think we spoke about it. It's a very unhealthy market. It's just not good for a lot of people, especially the buyers. They're putting themselves at risk. So right now, the way the market is still pretty strong, right? So just to give an example, we have like 2 months of inventory in most areas. You have Long Island, which is like mostly suburbs, right? And then you have like the boroughs, which is, I primarily work in Queens. You also have Brooklyn, the Bronx, and Manhattan. So 2 different ways of operating. So in Long Island, what ends up happening, most people go there because of the schools, so if the schools are good in a certain area, right? There's going to be bidding wars if it's priced right. So I don't know if you're seeing that in this market. There's different houses that are overpriced. They're not selling. Mm-hmm. You can't overprice in this market and expect it to sell. It's going to sit there forever. Houses that are priced well to the market go very quickly, especially if it's in good condition, the ideal home, and in a good school district. So just for example, I went out with a few buyers I think it's because of the weather also Saturday. But I usually get an indication from the open houses, right? The open houses, if you see a line, you're like, oh man, there's going to be... But there was no lines, right? There was hardly no lines. So I'm like sniffing, like, wait a minute, So the interest rates definitely had an impact, right? I don't know how people are going to do it because, like I mentioned to you, the property taxes here in Nassau County, which is a part of Long Island, they're $12,000 to $14,000, $15,000 a year. So you're buying a $600,000 house, you're putting 5% down, your mortgage payment is $5,000. Okay? So the market is pretty good here in the boroughs, right? It's more dense, right? So there's not that much space. You depend on public transportation. The property taxes are lower. The property values are a little bit higher for the same square feet. You're seeing a little bit of a slowing down there, especially when it comes to like two-family, multifamily. And the reason is that, again, a judicial state, if you have a tenant that hasn't paid, they can stay there for 8 months up to a year and a half in courts, and the courts are backed up over here. So this is very favored towards the tenants. Okay, so if you're buying a multifamily at these price points where, two families before used to, in some areas, were 500, 600, now they're approaching 850, 900. Taking a mortgage out on that and then not having a tenant pay could be very risky.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. You mentioned taxes. Well, before I go there,
yeah,
it's pretty much the same here. Like how homes priced well, in good condition, showing ready condition. Buyers don't want to have to come into a house and do a whole lot of work. And then in sought after school districts, they are moving. But I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they said sellers are realizing their homes are no longer dipped in gold, because in the previous market, you could they throw out a price, somebody was going to take it. But now we are normalizing, adjusting. And I know we spoke about it kind of like this is the market that we have been used to and kind of prefer, so while interest rates may be higher, I feel like buyers have more of a chance in this market, or more buyers have more of a chance
exactly
in this market. So one of the differences that I noticed when people relocate from New York to Georgia, when they hear how much their taxes are, or when they go to register their cars and they tell them the amount, they're like, is that every month? They're like, no, that's for the year. So
for the year.
Right.
And this is what's being right now, I can't, I love living in New York. I'm a New Yorker, born and raised here all my life. I like the diversity, I like the food, I live in Queens, borderline Queens and Nassau, which is, right in the beginning of Long Island. So I cover this area. And for me, I like the life here, in Long Island. But whoever is retiring, middle age, or starting new, they're either moving all the way out east, which is way off in Suffolk County, which, sometimes is not desirable for a lot of people because they don't want to go that far. That's why we had this conversation, which is they're looking to move out of state, because at the end of the day, they compare. They're like, wait a minute, if I sell my house here for $700,000, I got $300,000, $400,000 in equity. I can go over there, put a huge down payment, property taxes will be lower. There's good schools. I'll save on auto insurance and that type of stuff. So that's the mentality here in New York. This is where people are at. This is what people are thinking of. You have New York City, which is pretty expensive. A lot of people rent there. So most of the real estate transactions are rentals, right? You have Brooklyn, which it's been developing big time in the past 5-10 years, right? Prices have gone through the roof. But there's there's a lot of stuff going on over there. And this is why a lot of people are moving into Brooklyn and Queens also, which it's the most diverse county in supposedly in the whole country.
Queens?
It's the most languages spoken. So you can walk out on the street and there'll be if you walk for 5 minutes, it'll be 5 or 10 different languages. And then the food, you smell the different foods, right? And then you have, Long Island, which is more suburban, and people go there for schools and, that type of stuff. And, but yeah, so it's a good lifestyle, but it's getting way too expensive for a lot of folks. Way too expensive. And the quality of life is diminishing, and that's what people are, looking elsewhere.
Yeah. Just sharing that. I was born and raised in Queens. I don't know if you
know.
You
were born and raised in Queens?
Cambria Heights. I left when I was 14. So
you left when you were 14.
It's the most diverse. I'm like, really? So things have changed and evolved. That's.
Yeah.
But I get both sides of it, right? So I get why people move to Georgia, because I always said, even when I was younger, I left it when I was 14. I was like, I wouldn't move back to Florida. Back to New York with a family. It was just harder. Life was just harder. just seeing my parents, trains, buses, drive to pick us up. It was just hard. So I knew when I had a family, I wanted a slower pace of life, not horse and buggy slow. But, you know, I want to be closer to the action, but not, you know, in the action. So that's why I'm in Metro Atlanta. So I'm not in the city, but I'm about 45 minutes, maybe an hour on a traffic day to it. But I also get why people stay in New York, because we visited maybe 2 years ago, and we actually did the touristy stuff. And I'm like, I remember it came back and I was like, I get it. So I get both sides. I really do. So
and I'm actually I live 15 minutes north of Cambria Heights.
Really?
That's the areas that I cover. I cover Southeast Queens, and I cover mostly Western Nassau, but I can go into, you know, deeper into Nassau also.
Okay. All right. So we're going to wrap up here so it's not too long. But when you have clients, or the clients that you've been seeing, are they, when they come to you and they're like we want to sell, we're moving, and either how has it been going, or ideally, how would it go for you? How would you advise them? Like, okay, have you been to Georgia? Have you spoken to an agent? Or how has it been going? Or what would you advise?
Yeah, I always say, have you been there? Like, for me, like, physically being in a place, for me, it's all about feel, you know what I mean? So you got to really be there and see, and just feel it for yourself. You see what I'm saying? And I think that, like, what you offer, which is the consultation and the Zoom call, because you got to kind of understand, like, you know, I can do all the research in the world. Like, for example, me and my wife went to Paris 2 weeks ago. You can do all the research in the world. Everybody's telling you 10,000 different things. Go online, whatever, right? But it's something different when you get there and you actually speak to people, or you spoke to someone that just came from there, because they're going to tell you, boom, this is what should happen, right? Mm-hmm. You've been there since you were 14 years old. You know Metro Atlanta, like, you know what I'm saying? You work there, you sell houses there, you live and breathe Atlanta, you know? So it's like a shortcut. That's why the Zoom call with you makes more sense. And that's what I'm going to recommend people. Get on a Zoom call first, because depending on that person's situation, you're going to recommend certain things. They may not take that recommendation because they may need to listen to other people, whatever it is. But that recommendation is solid because, you know, you've been there, done that, you know, right. And you're in it right now. So you can, you know, depending on the situation, you can guide them effectively. Okay. So that's what I would say. I would say get on a Zoom call with you first. Go there and visit, right? Get familiar with it. Again, you talk to me about new build or resale, right? Mm-hmm. I kept saying pre-sale before, but now I got it right. Resale. I said it like twice. Pre-sale. No, you said resale. Okay. No, resale, right? So there's just differences. And you don't see a lot of new construction over here. Like, you don't see like lots being built. You remember that there was none of that. You don't see lots being built, and okay, you know, there's none of that right there. The only new construction there is if by chance you were able to inherit a lot, you bought a lot, an adjoining lot, you know, larger lot from an existing household, and you build another house there, or you knock a house down, right? Mm. So you get a wrench, the house is completely destroyed. You're like, you know what? It's not worth for me to rehab it. It's just better for me to knock it down and rebuild. And that's what you'll do. You'll get it for a good price, knock it down and rebuild, depending on the zoning and how much you can build, right? Okay. That's the only new construction that you see over here. So most of it is going to be resale. Okay. Say 90 whatever percent. It's going to be resale. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So like with the clients that we have, how did you gauge when you wanted to list their house?
How was I in touch with them and stuff like that?
No. How did you gauge, like, you know, all right, we're gonna list your house this? Was it the communication with them, knowing that I hear, like, when, you know, how did you decide, all right, we're gonna list your house then?
Yeah, well, the thing is, we've been in touch for years, to be honest with you. And okay. we've had a really good relationship. Very respectful. And I love those transactions, because that's like, those are the relationships that I try to maintain after the closing also. And that's the part of the business that I enjoy, which is you get to solve a situation for someone, for a family, that did what they had to do over here, and then because of life situations, they're looking to move somewhere else, and it's going to be better for them, right? And just helping them throughout that whole process. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I enjoy out of the business more than anything, like anything else. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure you feel the same way. It's just like we're going to be working on this together, and it's going to be a pleasure, but it's going to be even better when it's finalized and they finally get those keys, right? And then move into the house. And I call everybody. I'm like, 6 months later, how's it going? They're like, oh, Raf, man, you have no idea. We are good. And that's all worth it for me. That's all worth it for me. And to know that I was a part of that, that's like, it's like, how can you contribute to the one little thing, how you contribute to the world? And it's like, our thing is through real estate. You know what I'm saying?
Raf, man, you're such a good guy. Like, we've only talked twice, but yeah, I can tell from our conversation before we started recording, you really have a heart for real estate and community and people and helping,
right?
And want to see people win, do better in life. Just
right. Why not?
Right.
Why not? And then at the end of the day, you know what? We help them in between. Like, we're gonna, this is an opportunity for us to help you. Let's help you get there. And everybody's doing the best that they can. You know what I mean? No, there's no perfection. There's no whatever it is. Everybody's doing the best that they can. And to me, I don't know, when it's a family, like you gotta really put your heart. You gotta put, because look, at the end of the day, we don't have to talk commissions. We're gonna get paid for this, right? So there's no reason to talk about commissions, whatever it is. Whatever you agree with the client, that's how much you're gonna get paid. The rest, focus on the client.
Right.
That's it. Client comes first. Even the communication that me and you have is about client, right? That's it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then, but you know how the business works. After that, you get referrals, and then it is just like a tree that you plant.
Right. I have to tell you, I'm so happy to be working with these clients and you on the other side, because when somebody is selling a home in one state and moving to another, like, communication between agents is so essential. So yeah, I'm so happy that it's you on the other end. I know that you care. I know that you're going to communicate with me, and we're just going to make sure that we're on the same page, and we are going to make sure they are taken care of, and they're the sweetest family.
Exactly.
So yeah,
and I'm happy that it's you too. And this is probably not going to be the only one. We're probably, we can establish a relationship and work together. And I have a trusted partner out there, and you have a trusted person out here. Yes. And if you're ever in New York, I don't know if you have family still here in Queens, hit me up, because I'm only 15 minutes away.
Awesome. Yes, most definitely will. And yeah, I tell people, like, reach out to me if you need a referral. I'll refer you to somebody that's like-minded, I know is going to take care of you. So you need an agent in New York. You said Queens and Long Island?
Yeah, Queens and Long Island. That's my Queens. I mean, I have other agents that work like in Brooklyn and the Bronx, Suffolk County, whatever it is, but I try not to spread myself out too much, Right. There may be situations where, there's just one person or homeowner that I know very well. Mm-hmm. Like, I have a situation with somebody's mother that I know him very well. He doesn't want anybody touching it. So that's when I'll go to Brooklyn, but I'll probably just partner up with an agent there, and then, because they want me to be involved. You see what I'm saying?
Right. No,
only in those situations, even in Suffolk County. But if they need me to be involved, then I'll figure out a way.
All right.
But yeah, it's pretty much it. We go over here and we get it done.
Okay. All right. So tell the good people where they can find you.
I've had this number for 25 years.
All right, I'm gonna stop you right there. That shows consistency.
Yeah.
That tells me a lot about a person, how long they've had their number.
Yeah, and it wasn't when I was even doing real estate. It was before then. 516-721-8357. You can call, text me. You know how it is. If I'm doing this right here, I can't pick up the phone. So if you text me, you can also find me on Instagram, YouTube. Even my website is Real Estate Raf. So Real Estate RAF, Raf. People call me Raf, so I'm like, you know what? Let me just say Real Estate Raf. And people call me Raf. You can call me and text me and say, hey, Raf, I need whatever it is. It's all good. So that's how you can reach me. Real Estate Raf, anywhere, and 516-721-8357. That number is not going anywhere.
Wonderful. And his information will be in the description box below. It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you for making this suggestion, because this was your idea, but it was wonderful connecting with you, another real estate professional over in NY.
And one more thing I want to say, I do speak Spanish also. Yo hablo español. So si tiene una persona que habla español y quiere hablar conmigo, yo hablo español. So that's another thing.
Estoy bien y tú. That's all I got.
It's all good. That's all you need. You gotta say casa.
Yeah, mi casa.
Casa grande. Oh, yeah, mi casa, you casa. There you go. You started off like that, and then we, you know.
All right. All right. So, thank you so much, Raf. If you guys have any questions, please like this video, give this video a thumbs up, drop a comment, reach out to us. We will make sure you are taken care of. Again, Raf, thank you for being here. I'm going to sign off as I do always. And Raf, you may not know, but you got to wave at the end. All right. Have a positive, peaceful, and productive day. Bye.
Bye-bye.
You got it.